Good morning and welcome to America's Home Cooking. This is part 2 of the Rye Flaxseed Sourdough Bread that we're making. Here my bread is risen. I fed it yesterday and you can see it's got a hard top on it. See? Don't worry about it. We're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of salt. We're going to just stir it right back in and leave it alone. Okay. I'm going to add 1 cup of water. And we're going to start adding flour. I'm going to add 1 cup. And we're going to stir this down. Another cup. This is the mixed flour that we mixed up yesterday. Oh, I wanted to add caraway seeds. Give me a minute, I have to climb and get them. Okay, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of caraway seeds. You don't have to add them if you don't like them, but I enjoy them in my rye breads. And this is a light rye that we're making, but you can leave them out. I don't see how I could have forgotten them. I enjoy them so much. When it comes to making bread, if you're going to have rye bread, I just think caraway seeds are great. So I've added 2, 4. We're going to add another cup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This should be my 5th cup of flour. Now you can make these as French loaves if you wish. I'm just going to make them in a regular loaf shape. I think it'll be fine. Take this last cup, dump it out. Let me get this soap out of the way and push you back some. I always make a bed for it to go into because it's going to stick. I just don't want it to stick too much, so I do that. you're making loaf pans, you're going to have to grease them. If you're making French loaves, you're going to have to sit there and grease the cookie sheet that you put them on, or whatever baking sheet you have. Now, any of these recipes of bread that I give you, you can half them. Same thing with muffins and with biscuits. You can half them down. If it's just you and your husband, there's no children, or you're by yourself, you can. The breads you can freeze after they're done. You can cut them in half and wrap them up in the freezer when they're completely cool with wax paper and foil. And then you have bread in the freezer, and that way you don't waste it thinking you have to eat bread every day, but you'd have half a loaf until you finish it. And bread will stay good 6 to 8 months, good year. I mean, they stay a long time. Of course, in my house, they don't last long. Now, I might not take all this flour, but that's all right. It happens sometimes. If it's real damp outside, you can find yourself taking a little more flour than normal. The humidity will pretty much dictate to it. I'd like to know if your sourdough culture's caught or not. Took me a while to get mine going. This culture that I did took 15 days to get it started. I didn't think it was ever going to, but I still had the wheat smell, so I knew it was good. As soon as it swells, you know you've caught those cultures. And then you have to start feeding it. But believe you me, I did not get it done the first time. It took a couple of tries to get it down. I finally got a recipe down that I've worked 3 times on, and I think it'd be good. And you can see the bubbles in it that tell you it's a sourdough. When you don't use sourdough, all your bubbles are level. You don't have air pockets. But when you make sourdough breads, you notice the holes are different sizes and stuff. And when you get and start making European breads, especially from France, you notice that their holes, you have big ones, little small ones, all different sizes. That's because they work with wet doughs. And that wild yeast is allowed to do what it has to do. And they're not concerned with the uniform of the bubbles, whereas in America, if you're in a baking contest, they want those bubbles uniform. The sourdough does act much different. This bread does not want any more flour, so I'll just push that flour to the side, and I will put it in my flours that I cook with. Even though it's rye, it doesn't matter. I'm going to use it anyway. just working the last bits in before I shape it and grease the pans and all. That's what you call smooth and elastic, okay? I work the flour in. So now I'll clean my hands and grease the pans and shape them and get them in loaf pans. Now, a lot of recipes, when you make bread, assume that you knows the steps already. This cookbook does not tell you to grease the pans, and if you don't grease them, they're going to stick. So they assume that you already know that step. Just like when you read the old cookbooks, they assume that you already know what the temperatures are. They say moderate high or hot, extra hot or a medium low or a low oven. You should already know those degrees and that terminology and what it means. I'm going to use 1 pound loaf pans. And you say, what's the difference? Well, you have 1 pound loaf pans, you have 1.5, and you have miniature. This is a 8.5, I think, by 4.5. I think that's the measurement of it. Or is it 8.25 and 4.25? Oh, I can't remember, but I know they're 1 pound. Because families aren't together as much, they're having to make new pan sizes and stuff. Families are so broken up. Am I using the lard? Yes, I am. The one that I made and canned. Okay. I try to get them the same size. Believe you me, it never works, but I come close. All right, if you're going to use French bread, you're going to flatten this out into a longer rectangle so you can make the French bread. But because I'm doing loaves, I'm only going to do this long. And when you flatten it out into that long rectangle, roll it up, pinch your seams, even if it's a French loaf, if you want to make a French loaf. Because if you don't, the seams will open up when you go to cut it. See? Just like that. If you want to make them round, you put it in a ball, and you can put it in a cake pan and let them grow. I should say double. Okay, put them in a warm spot. Because it's sourdough, you do not have to cover it or anything else. Now we're going to have to wait a good while for them to double up. I have to wait till they get an inch above the rim, and that could be hours because my kitchen is cold. I'll give you the cooking temperature and all. Part 3 will probably be as short, and I'll show you the final product, but I'll tell you what the temperatures are and how long you cook it, and then you'll have it right there for you. All right, once it gets 1 inch above the loaf pan, this is when you're going to bake it. If it's a French loaf, you're going to have to wait till it rises to a certain point. I would say double, maybe a little more, because you've got to wait for the inside. If you don't let it rise enough, what will happen is you'll cook it. If this is for the ones who are going to make a French loaf, you will notice when it sounds good, but this is when the professionals will sit there and they turn it upside down. Women had to learn to listen to the hollow sound, because if you cut it, it'll be raw in the middle. So wait till it, really rises, but not to the point of collapsing. Now you'll be cooking it in a 375-degree oven for 40 to 45 minutes. Once it's done, get it off the pans and on a rack to cool. Now the ones who are making regular loaves, turn them on their sides. Now you cannot cut them, you cannot check them until they are thoroughly cool, because if you cut them, they're going to go back into the dough state. Okay, so I'll see you when they're completely done.